Live. There's my sound is on. We're live on YouTube, I believe. Let's take a peek. Yep, YouTube is now on. And Instagram is now live. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to your morning medication. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. I just started the live chat right at this second. So those of you that are joining, give me a moment to allow for the other people to get online. We got YouTube chat right here. This is YouTube chat. And then this white above it is Instagram. If you guys are joining on Instagram, you probably want to jump on YouTube if you do want to get some more action and chat with more people. It's way more active on YouTube. Just letting you know. The link is in my bio on my Instagram bio, my Instagram profile. We got a bunch of stuff to go through right now. I'm going to do a quick update on there's like a new press conference that they just held. So we're going to play this and get started. And away we go. And get the sound up here. And just get us to where we need to be. And here we go.
You text me? Why not?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 16 of the Democrat shutdown. The Schumer shutdown is very real and very painful for real Americans. We're going to share a little bit about that situation with you this morning, and then get an update on one specific segment regarding Homeland Security and what that's doing for the security of our country. If you're keeping count, 9 times the Senate Democrats have voted to keep the government closed. All the House Democrats except one voted September 19th to shut it down. So this is 10 total times now that Democrats in Congress have voted to close the government. And we know what that means for real people. We know what it means for our troops and our Border Patrol agents and TSA agents and air traffic controllers and everybody who relies upon services around the country. It's very real. And so today marks yet another day of American families feeling the very real personal and economic strain of this reckless decision that our Democrat colleagues keep making. They want the United States government to remain closed, and they seem not to care about the pain that it's causing. They have offered no plan. They have offered no strategy. They have offered no common sense path forward for ending this situation. And so many of you have asked all of us, how will it end? We have no idea. It's up to the Democrats, and they have to decide it. And judging by their outrageous behavior, the Democrats appear perfectly happy to keep the political theater going while real people suffer. And that's why House Republicans made the responsible decision for our members to spend this week in their districts working for the people. They're helping their constituents. They're helping the American people navigate the mess that the Democrats have created. Staying back to work with our constituents was a decision that we made very thoughtfully, and we made collectively as a group, House Republicans. We have so much of that work to do. This is not some talking point. It's not some strategic tactic. We made that decision out of urgent necessity. So I want to highlight here just this morning, just very briefly, just a couple of examples, a small sample of some of the very important work that House Republicans are doing on the ground right now to help Americans through this difficult time. In the state of Michigan, for example, our members are sitting down with veterans, men and women who risked their lives for our country, and they're struggling now because the services they depend on, health services, for example, have come to a halt thanks to the Schumer shutdown. So in Michigan, our Republicans from the House are there working through those situations. In Texas, many of our Republican colleagues have met with some of our brave Border Patrol agents down on that southern border who are still reporting for duty without a paycheck. In Montana, Congressman Ryan Zinke helped park rangers who are keeping the parks open as best they can for families and travelers, even as they themselves go without a paycheck. Across the Midwest, we have members who are meeting with local and regional airports to hear firsthand how furloughs and blocked paychecks there are hurting the people who keep our skies safe. Really important stuff. In rural communities around the country, Republicans are working hand in hand with their local hospitals to make sure that the $50 billion rural hospital fund that Republicans got signed into law in July 4th is accessed. It reaches the people who need it. And they're doing that work while the Democrats are demanding to kill that essential fund that is in their counterproposal for the CR, one of the many outrageous things they've claimed they want to do. And everywhere across America right now, we're helping small business owners and farmers and ranchers and service coordinators navigate frozen loans and delayed emergency funds and growing uncertainty about how to keep serving their communities. So all across the country, Republicans are dealing with the very real and painful consequences facing real Americans. Now, that's happening on the Republican side. And what's happening on the Democrat side? You can see it for yourself. Compare what I just told you with what they're doing. Look at their own behavior. Look at their actions. Don't listen to the words that people are saying. Look at what they're doing. Chuck Schumer and Democrats over the last 10 days, here's a small sample of their activity, okay? We've seen performative stunts and TikToks and photo shoots across every inch of this Capitol. We've seen Democrats actually toast themselves on the balcony of the DCCC last night, while their colleagues voted in the Senate to keep the government closed for the 10th time. We've seen not one but two failed publicity stunts right outside my own office, the latest of which ended in a congresswoman storming the entrance and berating a Capitol police officer who, by the way,
I want to hear some of the things that they are demanding to have in the CR that they're holding up the government for.
Is protecting her without pay. And last night, we even saw, I didn't see it, many of you saw it, CNN host the first socialist town hall where Bernie Sanders and AOC said the quiet parts out loud. They don't know what they want to end the shutdown. They couldn't provide a single viable solution for the mess that they themselves have gleefully created. And by the way, those are the real leaders of the Democrat Party. We all know it, AOC and Bernie. Good luck with that. And amid all that, Chuck Schumer is actually bragging that every day gets better for his party. As you know, that is his words, not ours. All this would be laughable if it didn't come at the cost of American families, and it really is deadly serious. If it were up to Republicans alone, we would not be in this mess. We'd be up here negotiating and debating openly and transparently on the issues impacting Americans' lives. But as I've said repeatedly, Democrats slammed the brakes on legislative business when they decided to shut down the government for their partisan political purposes. The progress we made on appropriations and the conversations that were underway on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies and all those issues, all that sits at a standstill until Democrats reopen the government. As soon as 5 Senate Democrats come to their senses and break ranks and turn the lights back on, House Republicans are anxious to get back to legislative session and to pick up our unfinished business. We have a lot yet to do. Until then, I'll continue to share the facts from this podium every morning to try to get this message directly to the American people. Republicans will continue serving on the job in our communities on behalf of the American people that we represent. I'm going to conclude this morning by saying this again. There's an incredible contrast right now between the two parties that could not be more clear. As we say here every day, this is not your grandfather's Democratic Party. It truly has become the far left, Marxist left, that are running that whole operation. And it has real effects on real people. And I just want you to, I'll highlight.
I'm going to pause this real quick so we can watch this, because this is Fetterman talking about this directly. So let's see what he has to say.
I grew up in the only Democrat in my family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump. But they are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution, those things. And that's part of another thing. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists, or I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. And now that kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence and doing all these kinds of things like Charlie Kirk. For me, all I could say is like, let people grieve. Give people the space. I'm not going to use that terrible thing in that Pasek assassination to make my argument and try to put out my views. It's like, my God, you know, he's a father that had his neck blown out by a bullet. And now people have forgotten. President Trump was in my state, was shot in the head. And if that would have, could you imagine where our nation would be if he was hit in the same way with Kirk? We really got to turn the temperature down. And we can agree to disagree on these kinds of things. But right now, shutting down the government, I just can't take it that.
So what you guys are watching there is a town hall hosted by News Nation. You can watch the full.
Well, I mean, you know, you brought up a good point. I think I was the only Democrat early on to give President Trump credit for the peace deal. Why wouldn't you?
Do you
I mean,
think
that's
Harris could have gotten it?
Well, again, I don't know. She's not the president. But where I'm at right now, it's like, ask any of the hostages.
Good morning, Sigano. It's still morning here in SoCal, buddy. Thank you for joining.
Or their families. They think President Trump was a hero and he deserves, you know, the kind of deal for that thing. I think that was really a remarkable development.
Do you think Harris could have got him out?
No.
We just got started. We're getting warmed up. I got a video coming up on the collapse of America. Interesting video. So we'll watch that together as soon as we're done with some of these updates.
I think it's a silly question.
It's a what?
I think it's a silly question.
Wait.
What? Hold on.
Could have got him out?
Deal for that thing. I think that was really a remarkable development.
Do you think Harris could have got him out?
No.
He's asking if he thinks Harris could have got the hostages out.
I think it's a silly question.
It's a what?
I think it's a silly question.
Wait. You agree that it's a silly question?
That's why they're clapping. Okay. They're clapping because they.
Security.
Right here. I think the most important point is just realizing who did it, not hypothetically or anything. I'm saying it's like, here's what happened, and there are actual members of my party that have refused to even acknowledge that this was significant. Well, you know, and that's for me where it's like, hey, you know, our politics might be different, but this was a significant development.
See, the biggest lesson from tonight from Senator.
Yeah, that's big. That a lot of them cannot even bring themselves to say his name. Barack Obama wrote a whole thing about it, did not once mention Trump's name.
Chicago. And while I do appreciate all the hard work that the ICE officer Chicago.
This one.
Hi, Mr. Holman. I'm from Chicago. And while I do appreciate all the hard work that the ICE officers have been doing, taking the worst of the worst, it seems to become more aggressive recently, probably in the past 2 months. A couple days ago, there's a large train station down the street from my house, and there were ICE officers 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's not always affecting just them. It's affecting regular citizens too. Delays, whatever. But I'm just curious why it's become so much more aggressive, and seems in Chicago mostly.
Well, a couple of things. If it's aggressive, I don't know if I use that term, but there's 1,000% increase on attacks on ICE officers. Have you seen the media lately? There's bounties on their heads for $50,000 to kill one of them. So they're very careful in the way they do these operations.
If you guys aren't aware of what he's talking about, there are literally bounties on ICE officers right now. The Mexican cartels have a tiered system of bounties where it starts with doxing. So they'll give you X amount of dollars if you get information on them and provide it to the cartels. They'll give you X amount of dollars if you kidnap them, and they'll give you up to $50,000, I believe, if you apparently kill one of the ICE officers. So this is a very real thing, and it's a recent development. So that's what he's talking about. There's currently bounties on ICE officers.
They got to protect themselves. So I want to use the term aggressive. They're using a lot more precautions when they approach somebody. Second of all, if the mayor wants less ICE agents on the streets of Chicago, then let us in the jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail where it's safer for Chicago residents, it's safer for the ICE agents, and it's safer for the alien. It doesn't make sense to release a public safety threat who's in the country legally back into the public.
Okay, let's talk about something very important to me. That is the.
Wow. Let's go back to right here. Let's go right here.
They have to make sure it's clear. License to do that. They have enforcement officials.
Point. It's a problem that they don't want to fix because they use it as a weapon. Let's continue.
Identity. Law enforcement officials throughout this country don't get the license to do that. They have to walk up to you. They have to identify who they are. They have to make sure it's clear. An ICE agent getting to conceal their identity is not a privilege or a situation that other law enforcement officials have. Why should ICE agents have that?
Look, I don't pretend. I don't particularly like the mask either, but name another law enforcement agency that's over 1,000% attacks on them. And name another law enforcement agency whose spouses and children have been doxxed on social media and been attacked and bullied in churches and schools. These men and women put a gun on their hip and wear a Kevlar vest to go on the streets every day, look for the worst of worst, makes this country safer. Them wearing a mask, if that protects them and protects their families, then that has to be done. No one, you know.
Good morning, State Line. It's morning here, but it's afternoon there. But what's up, buddy? Good to have you.
I remember the days some of these cities, if they weren't wearing a mask during COVID, you got reported to the police and got arrested for it. These men and women are trying to protect themselves and their families. And again, I don't like the mask. I wish there wasn't need for it. But there's not another law enforcement agency dealing with the attacks that ICE is dealing with right now.
Guys, when you have a bounty being placed on your head by Mexican cartels, and you have people in these local neighborhoods who are attacking ICE officers and obstructing them from doing their job, and you have the local police refusing to hand over criminal legal aliens to you, what do you expect ICE to do exactly? And the difference between...
Yeah, that's one of those tough ones, man, is people are not looking at that part of it. And the doxing is a real thing. They even have websites that are keeping track of the doxing activity. So doxing efforts are going and being inputted into these websites, and they are providing these to everybody, even Mexican cartels. People have apps that can go online and locate where ICE agents are if they want to attack them. It's absolutely wild. And you got to imagine that, you know, their families are in danger. So it's a real thing.
As far as the question is, okay, how about the ones that aren't national security threats, not public safety threats, not national security threats, not gang members? Who are they? They're collateral arrests. Because when the sanctuary cities force us into the neighborhood to find a bad guy, because they won't give us access to the jail, so now we got to go to the neighborhood and find them. When we find that criminal, many times are with others who are in the country legally. We're not walking away from them. We're going to enforce immigration law, unlike the last administration did.
So even if collateral people, they are subject to deportation, even if they don't have a criminal record?
Absolutely. If they're in the country illegally, it's not okay. Bottom line is, it's a crime to enter the United States illegal.
Just like it is for any other country, man. It's legal. It's illegal to enter a country. It's not cool to enter our country illegally. And I have no problem with immigration. I'm a product of immigrants, and I grew up here in Southern California. Majority of my actually all of my cousins and all my aunts and uncles, they're all immigrants or product of immigrants. You know, growing up here in Southern California, I've been raised around more immigrants and immigrant families than I can count, and I love them all. Nothing against them. Again, I am a product of it. Nothing wrong with immigration. We just need to have. We should be able to have immigration in the amounts that we want it to be, not whatever anybody else wants. We should be able to have an immigration system that is being followed and have it to go at our pace, not at whatever pace anyone says. We should, at the very least, know who's coming in our country. That's a fundamental, basic, I think, thing about immigration that any country has. If we go to any country illegally, that's a problem for them, and they're gonna remove us or do whatever they got to do in accordance with their laws. For us, it seems like, oh, it's America. No, anybody can come whenever they want, and it doesn't even matter if you know who they are or not. And that's not cool. We should be able to do it at our pace, on our rules, and hey, we're all about immigration. I think we allow more immigrants than any country in the world. but let us do it at our pace. Don't flood us. Don't make it an invasion, and let us know who's coming in
legally, and we're not going to turn a blind eye to that.
Yeah, this is nothing different than any agency out there. Right now, the way they're running it is zero tolerance. I'm not surprised. Neither should you. And neither should these people who are screaming up and down about it. Because it is the law. If you cross the border illegally, the fact that we have to keep repeating that, and the reason why we have to is because for some reason, Democrats want to change the language. They don't think it's a crime. They don't think it's subject to deportation.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's the radical left or it's the whole left, because I speak to people that are not radical left these days, and they're saying, well, it's, this is called Earth, and we should all be able to walk around anywhere we want freely on Earth. And it's like, yes, but there are countries that are set up with their kind of their citizens, and they're taking care of their citizens, and there are rules in place, and there are wars that have been fought and are continuing to be fought, and there are things happening. There are things in place for security, for the betterment of its people, and all that kind of stuff. And there are resources that have been put in place that are, whether you call it limited or not, there are those things in place. Let countries do what they got to do to maintain their own laws and to maintain their own safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense to flood places and for us to not know who is coming into our country.
That's why they try to minimize that statement.
Which is that I will not plead to the president.
Fox News earlier today, and he made a couple of statements, particularly one directed at the president. Take a listen.
And I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who's ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I'm going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington,
How, with socialism?
D.C., but anyone across this country. I think it's important because too often the focus on the need.
We're about to play a video that's going to talk about this, and that's what his way is. He wants to do socialism, which is the most failed way to run any type of government.
Needs of working class Americans, working class New Yorkers are put to the side as we talk more and more about the very kinds of corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo that delivered us into this kind of crisis.
Okay, here's the bottom line about Zoran Mondani. I've been paying attention to this. You know what the difference is between him and the rest of the Democrat Party? He actually has ideas. He's young and he can communicate those ideas in a confident, articulate way. Those ideas clearly will destroy this country. No.
I like what DeVore just said. He's one of the few Democrats that actually has ideas and policies that he has in mind, and he is able to clearly, explain those to us. And so, W Patriots for Truth, he says, you are right. He is evil. I mean, it is what it is. The guy wants to use socialism, which is the most failed style of government. And I mean, I don't understand. We're talking about, regulating pricing at supermarkets or creating government run supermarkets. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Big Mouth says Sanctuary City is safe haven for criminals. Yeah, 100 guys. State Line says he never explains the funding mechanism and their viability. Great point. Great point, State Line. He never discusses how he intends to fund these things, which we know how socialism works.
No question about that.
And we're going to watch a video that speaks to that.
But you cannot hate on the fact that he knows how to communicate them. That's
thanks for joining, Patriot. Glad to have you, brother.
Something Kamala Harris lacked at the highest level. And so he's going to be the next New York City mayor. Andrew Cuomo, a terrible candidate, terrible history, terrible governor. And at the worst time during COVID, he's got some stains on his resume. I don't think he has a chance, but that's just me. I might be wrong. If you're from New York City, why don't you let me know? At any rate, let's watch this next clip. This is about taxes. Like I said, he knows how to communicate his ideas in an articulate way. And here is an idea that would absolutely destroy New York City. Take a look.
So a lot of individuals in this city pay more than 50% of their income in taxes. When you talk about a fair share, how much more than, what is the fair share? What's the number?
Dude, that's a big number, guys. More than 50. Listen to the words she just said. I want to put this back so you can hear it right from her exactly. Here we go.
How much more than, what is the fair?
Like I said, he knows how to communicate an idea that would absolutely destroy New York City. Take a look.
So a lot of individuals in this city pay more than 50% of their income in taxes.
That's a big number. Big number.
When you talk about a fair share, how much more than, what is the fair share? What's the number?
I've said that we should increase personal income
So
taxes by 2%.
is fair?
And my point is this.
Give up more than half of your income. That's
if you're making $1 million in New York City, or more than that, you can afford to pay 2% more. And the reasons you can afford to do so is because that money will be used to better your quality of life as well.
Yeah.
Because when I speak to the wealthiest New Yorkers, I hear concerns about the cleanliness of the city, the quality of life in the city, questions of public safety. This money is the money that will be used to deliver on.
New Yorkers are, she just said it, they're already being taxed at 50% of their income. There's a reason why people are leaving or have, a lot of people have already left New York and California and other major states and big cities because of these taxes. So you're going to drive, you're already overtaxing people by 50, you're charging them 50% of their income. Imagine you go make 100K a month to give 50K away. You go make 200K a month to give 50K away, to give 100K away. Or if you're in if maybe it's for just a top bracket, you go kill yourself to become really successful. You make $500,000 and you got to give 50% away. You go become a millionaire. Imagine this for 1 second, you guys. Imagine you work so hard and you try so hard. You make yourself a millionaire one day only to give up $500,000 to New York so that it can continue being a dump, so they can continue making it a sanctuary state, so that they can keep allowing illegal immigrants to come into hotel rooms, 3 to 4 star hotel rooms, and stay in your city, being paid and given cell phones by the government. Imagine that. Imagine becoming a millionaire and giving up $500,000 of your money, half of your money, and then this guy comes and tells you, well, we can make you, let's make you give a little more. You're already giving 500, might as well give more. Dude, it's insanity. It's like, dude, when does it stop? You're gonna bounce. You're not gonna have your company or your income to be made in New York anymore. You're gonna outsource that. You're gonna do it somewhere else.
On those things, so that we can ensure that we have a return on investment.
Min, what's up, Min? And Virginia, thanks for joining. What's up, Tamara? Thank you for logging in, guys. Good to see you guys. Min says, you run out of other people's money really quickly. Then you get upset when they come for yours.
Investment for all of the money that we are raising and spending right here across the 5 boroughs.
Okay, let me just break down the numbers for you guys. If you make $25 million or more in New York City, you're the one paying 52% right now. Federal, state, and city combined, okay? But here's where Mandani comes in. If you're making $1 million or more, he wants you to pay 52%. So $1 million and up, 52%. Now, I'll just stop right here before I go any further. Do you agree with that? Let me know in the comment section below, especially if you live in New York City.
Yeah, I misspoke earlier. It's not 100K or 200K. If you make $1 million, you got to give up half of that money. That's absolutely nuts, you guys. That's crazy. Let me fix the subscribers there. There we go.
Now,
that's insane.
Problem with that thinking is the same problem that happened in California. Why would someone pay for that if they don't know what they're getting, especially if they're getting things they don't agree with?
Yeah.
For example, in California, why would someone continue to pay the highest taxes in the nation when the cost of living is the highest? Think of San Francisco. Why would someone continue to pay high tax if there's a homeless issue? Why would someone continue to pay high taxes if electricity costs are high? What about the quality of education, which has gone down? See, that's why it doesn't make sense to live in California today. 20 years ago, that was a different story. Today, no thank you. That's why so many people have left, in the millions at this point. It's the same thing that's going to happen to New York City. People will just move. It just because it doesn't financially make sense.
Wake Up makes a really good point. Wake Up says, when you leave Cali or New York, don't bring your values to try to change the state you moved to change it into the state you left. Very good point. Wake Up says, I'm about to leave Florida at this point because of people like this. 100% agree with you. And I would hope people, when people leave California or New York or states like that, like this, that I'm in Southern California myself, I would hope when people are leaving to avoid this nonsense, they are happy to be in those states that are the opposite, that are doing the opposite, that are rewarding you for creating income, creating businesses, creating or being productive and being a creator. And so I would hope that happens, but it doesn't always happen. So there's some other examples with religion. We have religious people coming from other parts of the world to the West, and they're trying to make the West like the countries they came from. And it's not cool. You know what I mean? And this same thing applies to people leaving states like California and New York. Don't leave these states and go to states like Florida and Texas and try to make them into the same thing you left. Don't do that. State line, socialism leads to oppression for sure, bro. 100%. What's the best state then? I don't know. That's a tough one. I really like Florida. I like Texas. But I'm a Southern California native. I'm born and raised out here, and I don't want to leave. I want to make this place better. Maybe I'm stubborn. I don't know.
It's common sense if you think about it. Okay, so one more clip for you. Here's Mondani talking about how he would handle repeat offenders. Take a look.
But why was he on the street is the question. Why was he on the street?
Because we have a broken system.
They lowered his bail. He had a bail he couldn't pay. Then they lowered the bail, and then he could pay it. Imagine if you're this family, and they look at 33 prior arrests, and why? Why was this man on the street? What would stop him in your administration from being on the street?
Because what we would do is actually address the systemic problems that would ensure that someone who goes through the system this many times is actually, his issues are addressed, the services are provided. Right now, all we have is going in and out, especially when it comes to mental health. I'll give you an example.
Where would he be in your world? Where would he be? In a mental institution?
He would actually be getting services from the first time that he was arrested, as opposed to having to go through them 33 times.
So according to Mondani, he'd like to give this individual mental health services the first.
Min says, Medi, I think you believe there is still hope is why you don't move. Yeah, I think I'm stubborn. You know, I'm hard-headed that way. I force things through. You know what I mean? That's what I've always done. You know, I think of myself as a freight train. It's gotten me into lots of trouble, and I've failed at a lot of things because of it. But it's gotten me to some great success over the years in many ways. So I don't know. I think I'm just stubborn that way, and I have this mentality where I feel like there's something I can do. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe there is something I can do.
First time they commit a crime.
Maybe it's something that we can all do out here in Cali. I know that Orange County, which is the county that I'm in now, was going to be Republican, was red all the way, even until the end of the election. And somehow they took their time counting votes and came up with more votes to make it blue. Very weird. State Line says, can't fix a destabilizing broken system like we have. We would have had to have gotten ahead of it properly decades ago, but there's been an agenda in place for a long time that prevents it. I agree, but I think there's been a very, very stark awakening that has happened ever since this last election cycle. And I think Trump getting elected was a major part of that. And there's been a lot of eye-opening things that have happened recently that has kind of exposed the Democratic Party. One of the big things is Democrats not letting voters vote for their nominees, showing that the Democratic Party is not very democratic. I was on the left even up until when Hillary was running against Trump. We voted for Bernie Sanders, and the elites of the Democratic Party gave us Hillary Clinton. And that was not very democratic. That was not cool. Democratic Party has been exposed for using their power in government to censor all of Americans in all of the major social media companies. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, when it was Twitter, and YouTube just recently came out and admitted it. I have all the documents. So, and you guys can just Google all of what I just said. So those are two major things that I always tell you guys why I switched to the right side recently. And I think a lot of these things have exposed the left side for that. And again, I came from the left, so I'm not like a hardcore right or far right by any means, but I am now on the right, but I'm closer to the middle than I am far right. I'm very much middle ground on the right. I'm leaning right. I'm not far right. So I do understand and agree with some of the things from the Democratic Party, and I'm not completely against it like some people think I am. I'm not like super red pill crazy right side, but I think the Democratic Party needs to really dig down deep and look in the mirror and make some changes, like Michael Jackson said in his song, Man in the Mirror. They really need to do that, and it doesn't seem like they've done that. The only person that is doing that is Fetterman, in my opinion.
Now, what those services actually look like, I don't know.
Dennis says, but you know, Trump is a great white hope. He is the great white hope.
The great white hope. The great white hope.
Am I open to that?
W. Dennis, bro. Hi, Newport Heights. Newport, where's Newport? Is that Newport Beach out here in Orange County? Tamara says, I was a Democrat up till Hillary. Oh, like me, up to Hillary too. But when Trump got another chance, I voted for him and won't be going back. Yeah, I mean, there's a way that they show it on a graphic that's been circulated around on social media. And what it shows is if me and Tamara, or Tamara and I were standing here on the left ended up going so far left, or to you guys, so far left that now even if we're standing in the same place, we're now considered right. But when that happened, I believe maybe Tamara, you're the same. I kind of walked a little more to the right, not all the way far right, just a little more to the right. But I'm very much standing close to where I was before. But the left went so far left that it just it's unrecognizable to us that came from the left.
That idea, sure, but they still should be put in jail. See, there is no scenario in my mind where people should not be going to jail after committing a crime. Witness or potential witness during court appearance.
So we saw Mike.
Right, again, the split screen.
We played a little bit of this, and then here's the full Mamdani thing. I don't know if I want to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to watch a little bit of it. I might hop around a little bit to find those places where he was trying to explain to us where he would be putting people or what he would be doing differently. So let's take a peek, and if it gets too boring, I'll change it.
Wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
That's absolutely true. One of the things that's also true is that JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs have moved major operations to Texas. They've not abandoned New York, but they're hedging their bets on New York because of the increased taxes that they see coming if you become mayor. So when they do that, jobs move out of the city as well. So how does that help affordability if people in the city don't have the jobs that they once had here?
Well, I'm looking to make this a city that every person chooses, whether they're a business leader or they're someone who works for that business. And the key ways of doing that are actually delivering quality of life, public safety, and affordability for each and every person. Because what we're seeing right now is we have a broken status quo we have a corrupt political system, and we have the politicians that sustain that. That's really what's on the ballot, is whether New Yorkers want to continue that or whether they actually want a city they can afford. That's what I'm going to deliver.
So, Governor Hochul, you would have to get approval from the legislature to raise individual taxes, income taxes, and also corporate taxes in New York, which you've said you would like to do in order to pay for the free buses and the free childcare and the different programs, the government grocery stores and the like. She says no new taxes in her governor's race. So what are you going to do if she won't allow taxes to be raised? How will you pay for these programs?
You know, I've said time and again that I believe these are the most straightforward ways that we can actually fund universal childcare, making buses fast and free. And I've said that the two clear ways to do so, raising personal income taxes on the top 1% by 2%, and raising the corporate tax to match that of New Jersey's corporate tax of 11.5%. Now, if there are other ways to raise this money to fund this agenda, the most important thing is that we fund the agenda. I still think that these are the most important and clear ways we can do it, and I'm thankful to have Governor Hochul's support in this race and the fact that she said we have a shared commitment to delivering universal child care for New Yorkers across the city and the state.
I think that's great. I think everybody would love to have free health care and free buses and all these things, but the question is, how do you pay for it? The city's already in debt. The governor says no to new taxes. Like Margaret Thatcher said, you know, socialism's great until you run out of everyone else's money, other people's money.
Well, what Andrew Cuomo said is that if he had $959 million, he'd give it to Elon Musk in tax credits, because that's exactly what he did. And I bring that up to you to say that it's often a question of whether you have the willingness to spend that money to benefit working class people, not where that money is in the first place.
So what would you cut? What would you draw from to do it?
I don't think we have to cut. I've spoken about raising taxes on the wealthiest. And frankly, this is an issue that we have here in New York City, and frankly, even across this country. When I've spoken to Trump voters right here in New York City,
I think that hits hard with a lot of the people on the left and a lot of the people that are in New York, a lot of voters. I think this tax the rich more is a phenomenal tagline for anybody running on the left.
Hillside Avenue.
Their constituents gobble that up. They love that. Yes, tax the rich, tax the rich. And they don't realize the rich are just bouncing. They're taking off. They're out and they're leaving the states. So your states become broke, and now you're taxing everybody at some point. You're raising the price of gas. You're raising the price of this, raising the price of electricity. You're raising everything's being taxed, and people are just getting juiced. And so now everyone's cost of living is through the roof in these Democrat-run cities. I'm in Democrat-run state, California. Our gas here is more than anybody else's gas. Our taxes here are insane. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm hard-headed.
In Queens, Fordham Road in the Bronx, they've told me it was cost of living that drove them to vote for Donald Trump. They've told me it was a promise of a lower whether it be cheaper groceries, whether it be childcare, whether it be rent. Right. And what we're seeing time and time again is we're more focused on the question of billionaires and the most profitable corporations than we are on people who can't even afford to make ends meet in this city.
Well, we know affordability is an issue, and I think that all politicians are getting to an understanding of that, and I think that you've done a lot, actually, to bring people's attention to that issue. Let's take a look at the free buses issue just for a moment, because I know you said that the pilot project that you did was one of the biggest accomplishments.
Min says, Tamara says State Line, exactly. State Line says, look up his background. He was a joke previously and a citizen for what? He was a joke previously and a citizen for what? He has no business leading any American until he actually assimilates himself. Yep, assimilation. Yep. If you become a representative, start a 501. Okay.
Accomplishments of being an assemblyman. The Washington Post said this in an editorial about this. Quality inevitably declines when a service is offered for free. Vagrants and drug addicts would camp out all day on New York's buses, especially in the winter. Parents would go afraid to let their children ride alone. Wealthier residents would find another way to get around, but poor New Yorkers who depend on the bus would suffer the most. What do you say to that? Do you agree with that?
Well, I would say that they should actually look at the report of the 5 free buses we delivered across New York City. We didn't see an increase in homelessness. We did see an increase in New Yorkers riding the bus. We did see a decrease in assaults on bus drivers by 38.9%. And we also saw a decrease in New Yorkers who are having to take a cab or take their own car. They were actually getting on the bus. More than 10% of new riders were doing so. That's why we care so deeply about this, because of the fact that it can actually deliver economic, public safety, and even congestion relief to New Yorkers who are looking to take these buses.
Deep Sleep, thanks for joining. Good to have you. Deep Sleep says, we've been saying tax the rich for 20 years, goes nowhere. It hasn't solved any problems. California has been taxing the rich more and more every single year. And what has it gotten us? The most homelessness in the country, the most poverty, insane poverty in outside of our major cities. It's gotten us people defecating in the streets, drug problems, insanity. I mean, we have the highest cost of living. I mean, I don't understand. It's just it drove everyone away. Elon Musk, for his own reasons, because he was hard-headed. He ran his companies out of California, and then California ran him out. That's what it leads to. Wake says, why'd you stop reading? What did I say? Oh, you want me to stop reading? Wake Up says, if you become a representative, start a 501c3 and funnel taxpayer dollars into your foundation. You only need to give 5% away and keep the rest of taxpayers' dollars. Wow. Crazy.
I know that you're turning 34 on Saturday, and I want to talk about your qualifications. Some say you have never run a business in your life, so I'm curious. And President Trump said that you never worked a day in your life. You've worked as an assemblyman, and you've had other positions in the government. But what qualifies you from your life experience to run the largest city in the country?
Hello.
They can't see you.
Hello.
Miss Medication says hi.
I'm leaving. Hi.
Are you taking off?
Yeah. But
Okay.
can I have what I just asked for?
You want my wallet? Go for it.
Where is it though?
I don't know. It's right here somewhere.
Trade.
I want to take this moment because you spoke about President Trump, and he may be watching right now, and I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call
Everyone
you to
says
figure
hello,
out how to
babe.
stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor
She says
like
she loves
Andrew
you guys.
Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own, directly
Let me put this again. Sorry, I interrupted you guys. She says hello. She loves you guys. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who is ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I'm going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country. I think it's important because too often the focus on the needs of working class Americans, working class New Yorkers are put to the side as we talk more and more about the very kinds of corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo that delivered us into this kind of crisis.
So the question I asked you was what specifically in your background gives you the confidence that you can run a $115 billion budget and run this city specifically from your personal experience and your background?
I've been a state assembly member here in New York City. I've represented 130,000 people in Queens. And in the time that I've done so, I've not only delivered more than $100 million in increased bus and subway service, I've also secured $500 million in debt relief for working class taxi drivers. President Trump knows this. New Yorkers know this across the 5 boroughs. Taxis, as we're looking at them right here, are such a part of what we love about this city. And yet those same drivers were sold a lie about a ticket to the middle class if they bought a medallion. I stood with those drivers. I organized with those drivers. I went on a 15-day hunger strike with those drivers. And we secured $500 million in debt relief that allows those drivers to do more than just think about struggle.
How many employees would you be overseeing in the New York City government?
More than 300,000.
That's a lot of people. But thank you for answering the question. I know that you want to stimulate your personal experience.
Where's my?
Sorry, here we go. My sound's back. am I tripping, or did he say he got 5 buses put in place and he spent $100 million or $500 million? Let me see what he said here.
Background.
I've been a state assembly member here in New York City. I've represented 130,000 people in Queens. And in the time that I've done so, I've not only delivered more than $100 million in increased bus and subway service, I've
$100 million in increased bus and subway service, but he said he increased the buses by 5 buses. He didn't tell us about any subway stuff. So did he spend $100 million on 5 buses?
Your plan on how you would do that?
You know,
That's a lot of people. But thank you for answering the question. I know that you want to stimulate small business in the city, and we all walk around the city that we love, and we see a lot of empty storefronts. So give me your plan on how you would do that.
You know, I've spoken to a lot of New Yorkers for whom their aspiration, their dream is in that small business. And I've told them that we are going to make it easier to not only open it, but keep it open. We're going to cut fines and fees by 50%, because as you said, we have a city government that has a $116 billion budget. It's not funded by charging a restaurant $25 a year for the right to sell a frozen dessert. We're going to streamline the regulations and rules that these small businesses have to adhere to. Because today, if you want to open up a barbershop, you have to fill out 24 forms, go to 7 agencies, 12 in-person activities. And furthermore, we're going to have a mom and pop czar, someone that'll help these businesses navigate through this. Because while we are holding these kinds of businesses to these kinds of rules, we're letting the most profitable corporations walk all over us here in New York City.
On Instagram, Gabrielle says, good man, you want my wallet with a smile. She says, LOL, good man, you want my wallet with a smile. She says, gosh, he's worse than the other politicos. Glad handing smile, nothing behind the eyes.
And it's part of the problem where so many New Yorkers look around at the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world and asking themselves, there's all this money, why can't I afford $2.90 to even ride the bus?
So let me just quick question on that, and I want to get to public safety because it's obviously another big issue for New Yorkers. So a lot of individuals in this city pay more than 50% of their income in taxes. When you talk about a fair share, how much more than, what is the fair share? What's the number?
I've said that we should increase personal income taxes by 2%.
Is fair?
And my point is this.
Give up more than half of your income. That's
if you're making $1 million in New York City, or more than that, you can afford to pay 2% more. And the reasons you can afford to do so is because that money will be used to better your quality of life as well.
Yeah.
Because when I speak to the wealthiest New Yorkers, I hear concerns about the cleanliness of the city, the quality of life in the city, questions of public safety. This money is the money that will be used to deliver on those things so that we can ensure that we have a return on investment for all of the money that we are raising and spending right here across the 5 boroughs.
I want to talk to you about public safety and your relationship with police. So just in terms of public safety, I want to go to an example first, because I hear from people that they don't feel safe walking home at night. There's drug addicts on the street, you know, right around the corner here. You can walk around the corner and see people shooting up. A lot of garbage on the streets right now. The subway is something that people are really concerned about. Last week, 64-year-old Nicola Tanzi, who was a church leader, a pillar in his community, was brutally beaten to death. I tried to watch this video in preparation. It's very hard to watch in a subway station in Brooklyn. 25-year-old David Mazarregos had a 20-inch sword. He's the suspect in this case. He was out. They lowered his bail so that he could get out. He was already waiting a trial for attacking someone in Chelsea. 33 past arrests. You were in favor of bail reform. Does that make you want to change your mind or think twice about reversing that?
This is a horrific incident, and it's the same video that I saw. And it's one that horrifies New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and it's completely unacceptable. And what it makes me think about is the necessity of providing public safety in our New York City subway system and across the 5 boroughs. Yeah. And also, how do we end the revolving door? Because when you look further into the case of whether this individual or so many individuals, especially those suffering from mental health issues, what we find is so often the only mental health system that we have that's functioning in this city is Rikers Island. 40% of the incarcerated population there are suffering from serious mental illness.
Why was he on the street is the question. Why was he on the street?
Because we have a broken system.
They lowered his bail. He had a bail he couldn't pay. Then they lowered the bail, and then he could pay it. Imagine if you're this family, I mean, and they look at 33 prior arrests, and why? Why was this man on the street? What would stop him in your administration from being on the street?
Because what we would do is actually address the systemic problems that would ensure that someone who goes through the system this many times is actually, his issues are addressed, the services are provided. Right now, all we have is going in and out, especially when it comes to mental health. I'll give you an example.
Where would he be in your world? Where would he be? In a mental institution?
He would actually be getting services from the first time that he was arrested, as opposed to having to go through them 33 times. If you look at the New York Times, they did an investigation on 1,000 different incidents of violent crime in the city tied to mental health episodes. They found that so many of those same New Yorkers were failed by the interactions they had with the city when they went for help, for mental health assistance. And that failure is a blight, it is a stain on our city, and it's a failure that I'm looking to fix by actually transforming this with the only comprehensive plan for public safety of any of the candidates. Because what we are going to do is put out a plan and a proposal that we have shared with New Yorkers to create the Department of Community Safety that would bring together all of these pre-existing silos that address mental health crisis, that address homelessness into one department, provide it with the funding necessary, and actually address this crisis.
Where do these people go, though, is my question. Are you
He's not telling us what he's going to do exactly, because he's saying that he's going to solve the problem, but he doesn't know what he's going to do. What's up, Ange? Thanks for coming on this morning. State Line, can you give Ange a link to our Discord? She's a member, and I want to get her going on Discord with all of us.
Are you going to put them?
And for those of you that want to join the Discord for the OGs, let us know. You can also, State Line, if you can provide a link for them to come on too, so they can be in our public side, and then we can kind of get them dialed in a little bit with us too.
Them in a mental institution so they can be taken care of, or are you going to leave them at home on medication? What's the plan?
There's a plan right now that allows for involuntary confinement, which I think should be a last resort, because of the fact that when you look at the actual results, this is something that so often doesn't actually have what has been spoken about. But what we have today that actually works for New Yorkers with serious mental illness, there are things like Fountain House. This is a clubhouse model, peer-led rehabilitative treatment for New Yorkers with serious mental illness. It costs $4,000 to have someone in Fountain House for a year. That's the cost of being on Rikers for 3 days. And what we see, however, is that those services, they increase employment by 50%, they reduce hospitalization by up to 45%.
What did he just say? Involuntary confinement? Involuntary confinement? He just went right.
They increase employment by 50%.
Hold on.
For New Yorkers with serious mental illness, there are things like Fountain House. This is a clubhouse model, peer-led rehabilitative treatment for New Yorkers with serious mental illness. It costs $4,000 to have someone in Fountain House for a year. That's the cost of being on Rikers for 3 days. And what we see, however, is that those services, they increase employment by 50%, they reduce
Baker Act? What is this? Hold on.
Together all of these pre-existing silos that address mental health crisis, that address homelessness into one department.
He's Shemus King. Thank you for subscribing, buddy. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me.
Provide it with the funding.
Again, you guys are welcome to join the Discord. State Line just put a link to it. We have a public side, and we have our members side for our members, like Ange, that's a member. Thank you so much. Wake up. Thank you for subscribing, man. Dude, feel free to join and get involved with us.
Necessary and actually address
Where
this
do
crisis.
these people go, though, is my question. Are you going to put them in a mental institution so they can be taken care of, or are you going to leave them at home on medication? What's the plan?
There's a plan right now that allows for
This is where he says allows for involuntary confinement. Let's listen to this.
Plan right now that allows for involuntary confinement, which I think should be a last resort, because of the fact that when you look at the actual results, this is something that so often doesn't actually have what has been spoken about. But what we have today that actually works for New Yorkers with serious mental illness, there are things like Fountain House. This is a clubhouse model, peer-led rehabilitative treatment for New Yorkers with serious mental illness. It costs $4,000 to have someone in Fountain House for a year. That's the cost of being on Rikers for 3 days. And what we see, however, is that those services, they increase employment by 50%, they reduce hospitalization by up to 45%, and they actually reduce the cost of healthcare as well for those same New Yorkers. This is what we're looking at. This is why we say that Rikers is broken. The system is broken.
You can just see people who are suffering up and down 8th Avenue, just as one example. And I hope we'll have a chance to talk more about that next time. But I don't want you to leave without me asking you about your relationship with the police, because obviously this is a big issue. You said in the past, and I almost don't need to go through it, it's been said many times, but that you called the police force racist, said they were a major threat to public safety, called them wicked and corrupt. And now the report that you apologized to 24 members of the NYPD. What did you say to them?
I apologized for the language.
I want to hear what he says about that. But this is, you guys ask, what's a clubhouse model? Here it is. A clubhouse is a community-based location designed to support the recovery of people living with serious mental illness, SMI. Each clubhouse provides a restorative environment for people whose lives have been severely disrupted because of their mental illness. The concept of a clubhouse, which was pioneered by Fountain House in the 1940s, starts with the idea that community is therapy. In each clubhouse, an intentional community is created where members and staff work together side by side to carry out all daily operations of the clubhouse. Members are also given access to crisis intervention services when needed and are connected with resources to support their basic needs, including support with employment, relationship building, education, housing, and daily meals. So if you want to, so this is like free housing and care. So you could just go commit a crime, say you're mentally ill, and you'll go get a free home and free food and free doctors. So we're talking about socialism, right? Am I tripping? Or guys, help me out here. I'm reading chat now. Honestly, if we had better abilities compared to history, I would think it'd be a good idea. Poor Mondani, lower grocery prices and make public. Let's say you go to jail for a minor non-dangerous crime. Let's check. Like check fraud. Do you deserve to possibly be physically harmed by those who can offer? Yeah, but involuntary led into this is called the Baker Act for mentally unstable humans. Baker Act is interesting, but do they take violent people? Yeah, I don't know what this is, but this is, I've never heard of this. Glad to be taking a look at it. We got President Trump that's going to give a announcement in about an hour. Okay, let's keep listening to. Let's see what did he say he's sorry for again?
I almost don't need to go through it. It's been said many times, but that you called the police force racist, said they were a major threat to public.
Kendall says saying you're mentally ill involves multiple doctor notes, diagnosis, and tests, which we know from. We know that everyone is willing to do anything, and everyone Kendall, that literally becomes a thing where I bet you where doctors create this system where, hey, come here, pay this amount, and they'll basically get you set up to be able to join this thing, right? If you feel like getting free everything for a little while.
Safety.
Violent offenders will not be able to, with proof of and record of
Called them wicked and corrupt. And now the report that you apologized to 24 members of the NYPD. What did you say to them?
I apologized for the language that I used, and I spoke to them about the fact that I want to work with them to deliver public safety. Because what we're seeing in the city right now is we're asking officers to do nearly everything we can think of. We used to ask officers to focus on serious crimes. Now we're asking them to focus also on the mental health crisis, to focus also on homelessness. In 1 year alone, the NYPD receives 200,000 mental health calls. In 1 year.
Yeah, and you know what they told me? That 1 out of 3 of those, the person has, they're very, very dangerous interactions. You're going to send a social worker in there?
Good question. Renegade says, how are poor people with serious mental illnesses able to pay doctors so they can go get into this program? Great question. I'm just brainstorming here. I'm not saying I know the definitive answer, but I'm assuming that if you can't afford these kind of things, that they can somehow be, you'll find doctors or whatever places to go get tested and diagnosed so that you can enter these places. But I'm saying is, he's talking about doing this in places like New York And, you know, if New York does this, we're talking about places like Los Angeles too. But let's just say New York, for example, high level of homelessness, high level of people that want socialism, don't want to work, are going to be on the streets, are going to be wanting free medical care and stuff like that, which, you know, as Wake Up says, would be paid by the state. So I don't know. I'm just trying to see, like, you know, this is something that could quickly lead right into what I'm saying. Like people saying, oh, wow, I can get free food, free housing, free everything. Let me go steal something. Let me go commit some crimes and say I'm crazy.
You can always have a police officer actually come to address that. But look, you're saying 1 out of 3. 2 out of 3 times, if you don't need the police and you're sending them to do that, then why aren't you sending them to respond to shootings and murders? 5, 6 years ago, the response time for officers was closer to 10 minutes. Now it's closer to 16 minutes. New Yorkers deserve a police department that is asked to do the things that it can possibly do, not one that covers the failures of every break in the social safety net.
So police officers that I spoke to, they don't want a behind closed doors apology. They want a broad public apology for the things that you suggested about them. Will you do that right now?
Absolutely. I'll apologize to police officers right here, because this is the apology that I've been sharing with many rank and file officers. And I apologize because of the fact that I'm looking to work with these officers, and I know that these officers, these men and women who serve in the NYPD, they put their lives on the line every single day. And I will be a mayor that
What changed your mind about it?
You know, I moved to the city when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
I grew up here. And 2 of the things that I thought often about was safety and justice. And growing up here, learning about the case of the exonerated 5, learning about Sean Bell, learning about Eric Garner, learning about Michael Brown, and then in 2020, the year where all of these tweets are referring to, it was the year when George Floyd was killed. And it felt like safety and justice had never been further apart. And it was actually Eric Adams in 2021 who said that New Yorkers need not choose between these 2 things. And so one of my focuses was, how do we deliver that justice? And now what I know, having represented 100,000 people in Western Queens, is that to deliver that justice, you have to also deliver that safety. And that means representing the men and women in the NYPD. It means representing the black and brown New Yorkers who've been victims of police brutality. It means representing the Muslim New Yorkers in my district who were surveilled on the basis of their faith.
68% of independent voters want more police officers on the street. And Cuomo, tomorrow night in that debate, he's going to say, I'm going to bring 5,000 more police officers to the street. Will you match that and agree with him on that?
I don't look to Andrew Cuomo for leadership. And
well, will you put 5,000 more cops on the street?
I've been very clear. I want to keep the number of officers that we have, and I want to make it easier for those officers to do their job. And what that means is that we allow officers to focus on serious crimes, and for all of the focus on the head count, we should focus on the retention crisis.
H. Hanker is asking if AIPAC, which I don't even know what that is. I don't follow that. But I'm assuming it's something to do with Israel or Jews. I'm not Muslim or Jewish. I'm not of Jewish descent either. But what does he say? Has AIPAC reached out to you yet? No, I haven't. No.
When I started running for mayor, 200 officers were leaving the department every month. Now it's 350. And a lot of them are leaving because there's simply no way they can do their job in what's being asked of them. And to your point, however, Andrew Cuomo is going to say a lot of things tomorrow night on the debate stage. And frankly, I wish it was more like NASCAR, so New Yorkers could see the billionaires that were sponsoring him right on his suit jacket. Because this is a man who had 10 years. And I know now that it's politically convenient, he watches Fox News as well. So I'll just speak to him directly. Andrew, you had your chance to lead this state. You took that time to sell out working class New Yorkers to your billionaire donors. And instead of actually meeting the needs of people who couldn't afford to live in this city, you gave $959 million in tax breaks to Elon Musk. And now you want us to believe that we can't spend less money than that to make every bus fast and free in this same city.
All right. I'm squeezing.
I don't know what you guys are saying exactly. I just, if those of you that don't know me or just now tuning into me, I run 3 businesses that I operate outside of this. This is what I do. This is my favorite thing in life to do, is to learn from videos and from people and learn it with people like you and talk about it. That's my favorite ultimate thing to do. I killed myself to become finally successful in running my own businesses after failing forever. And I did that to a point where those businesses help pay the bills so that I can do this. I'm not trying to be represented by anyone. I don't want to be held to any specific thing. I just want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So I don't know if, does that answer the question?
And two very
Please.
quick ones here,
Absolutely.
if you can answer them quickly. Commissioner Tisch, you have suggested that you want her to stay. Have you asked her to stay? And has she said yes? Because I think that is one issue that would go a long way towards police retention.
I've said that I appreciate Commissioner Tisch's record of uprooting corruption in the upper echelons of the NYPD. Yep. I've appreciated her presiding over drops in crime across the city, and I continue to actively consider her to be my police commissioner. I haven't made any personnel commitments.
Okay, so you don't want to ask her right now?
No. That's the kind of conversation I would actually have in person, in private, not a politics of theater.
Okay, it's an issue that a lot of people brought up with me when I told them I was going to be speaking with you. Last question, you want to have a World Cup czar. I know you're a huge soccer fan, Arsenal fan. I have a lot to learn about soccer. I'm happy to admit that. And I look forward to learning more. That would be great. What is this World Cup czar going to do for New York City business?
The World Cup is the largest sporting event in the world. And it's as if no one has been thinking or talking about it here in New York City government. It's coming next summer to this city. We're going to have billions of people watching. The World Cup czar is going to ensure that this is a tournament that New Yorkers remember as well, not just those who visit us. That it's a tournament that will signify an increase, not only in tourism, but for small businesses and an exploration of this city. Because for too long, we have had these kinds of opportunities that we've just passed up on. I mean, we recently had the 400th anniversary of New York City. Most people have no idea.
Right, good point.
Because the city didn't do anything about it.
Well, you know, President Trump's going to make a huge deal out of the 250th anniversary of New York City. So maybe there's an example there. And he and his family, his son is a huge soccer fan. So would you welcome them to New York to enjoy the World Cup with you?
I would welcome them to come to New York City and also to talk about how we can actually lower the cost of living, because that has to be the focus. And frankly, that's a promise that's been broken. It's time to fix it. And that's what I'm running to do.
Saron Mamdani, thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you.
All right, so that interview is done, and we're going to move into our video that we really want to get into. So I just want to say hello to Elmo. Good to have you, man. And Random Consumer, good to have you too, bro. I'm not sure if you came in earlier, but if I didn't see you, hello. Kendall, thanks for explaining some of those things. I was reading what you wrote, and I understand a little bit better now. Thank you for that. G. Hankar says, did he warn Israel PM not go to New York? Did he warn Israel PM not to go to? Yes, he did. Yeah. And Mary Ham says, well, since Trump is an actual New Yorker, he doesn't need your welcome, mom commie. Oh, W Mary Ham. Hell yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
All right, let's get into the video we want to watch. We watched a few things. We got Trump on deck. I have him here sitting, waiting. He's going to make an announcement here today. So when that happens, I'm going to bring that in. But we have this right here that I want to talk about. So it's a blank screen, and I'm going to hit play, and we're going to watch this and get ramped up here. This is out, and this is out, and ready. 1, 2, 3.
2/3 of Americans now say the other political party is not just wrong, but a serious threat to the United States itself. Trust in the government has collapsed to just 22%, which is near historic lows. The middle class, the glue that holds this country together, has been absolutely hollowed out. Housing is now at its least affordable point in 30 years, locking young Americans out of the only asset they intuitively understand. And when people are shut out, resentment festers, which is why 62% of Americans under 30 now say they have a positive view of one of history's most murderous economic systems, socialism.
A lot of people talking about socialism. A lot of people now, more than I've ever seen in my whole life, are coming out as supporting socialism and communism. What's the difference between the two, socialism and communism?
Worse than that, these aren't random cracks in civilization. They're the same fault lines that show up again.
Kendall says, let me know if you want me to call in ever. I got facts. I got research. She says, Hashemis, maybe not physically, but momentarily. Absolutely. Hashemis. I don't know.
And
But I'm down to have you call in anytime. Hashem is not American B-2s that hit Iran's. Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'm always down to have someone call in, especially if comment before my. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Again, throughout history, right?
Oh, Hashem is king.
Before society's collapse. Philosophers, historians, economists, the best minds across multiple eras all point to the same sequence. Debt accumulates, the middle class disappears.
Kendall, what do you want to speak about if you want to call in?
Trust breaks down, populism rises, elites get overproduced, wealthy people hedge against collapse, and debt spirals wildly out of control until violence erupts. If you want to know where America is at on that timeline, we just crossed $37 trillion in government debt. That's more than $100,000 of debt for every man, woman, and child in the country. Only 8.
Hey, Dragon, thanks for the comment. I'm trying to learn more every day, and that's the whole point of this podcast. It's called Discovery, and we are going to discover together. If you know the difference, feel free to explain it, and we can talk about it.
18% of adults even earn that much in a year. The debt to GDP ratio is at a staggering 122% and climbing. And 130% is considered a red line over which virtually every country that has ever spent any meaningful amount of time above that line has collapsed. History is screaming at us. The dashboard is flashing red. If we do not take evasive action immediately, if you can't afford a bunker in New Zealand, your future is going to be bleak. Today, we're going to speed run how countries collapse so we can see exactly what we need to do to avoid it. And if we can't avoid it as a society, what you personally need to do to make it to the other side better than before the collapse. Because collapses always hurt most people, but they also always help a select few. We're going to cover this in 5 easy parts. Part 5 is the playbook, but you are not going to want to skip part 4 because if you do, you're going to be in trouble. It won't make any sense because that's where I explain why the answer you're currently being sold isn't going to work, at least not alone. So welcome to part 1, the anatomy of a collapse. In the last years of the USSR, grocery store shelves were so bare that by 1990, the average Soviet family spent 1/3 of their income on food when it was.
I'm going to put this in here real quick. So it says here, socialism aims to reduce inequality through shared ownership and government control of key industries, while communism seeks a classless, stateless society where all property is collectively owned. Okay, we've got to look a little further into it.
Was available and still faced chronic shortages. Within a year, the empire was gone. When Argentina defaulted on its debt in 2001, poverty doubled in just 6 months. Riots spread so fast that the country cycled through 5 presidents in 2 weeks. In 1923, debt crushed Germany so hard they had to hyperinflate their currency just to try to survive. And at one point, it took 4.2 trillion German marks to buy a single US dollar. That was the collapse that paved the way for Hitler. Now, I encourage you guys to self-radicalize by researching how often countries actually fail. It's not just the Roman Empire, despite all the memes. It's happened over and over. And for better or worse, history shows that when it comes to economies, countries don't collapse randomly. They follow a pattern you're going to find distressingly familiar to things you see happening today. But before I break it down, let's set some context.
Okay, let me look at your chats real quick, guys. All property and economic resources are owned and controlled by the state for communal use. Private property is abolished. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. Kendall says, I don't belong to any party, any belief besides humanitarianism and caring for one another. Okay, so Hashem is triggering some people in the chat. It's all okay. All right. And then State Line says it almost always leads to either communism or collapse. What is that? Who needs to get a profile pic, bro? The Hashem or Hashem?
Most people just want to live their lives. They want to fall in love, make some money, raise a family, and have a little bit of fun. But to do that, they need a few things, namely a stable government, law and order, personal property rights, affordable basics, a growing economy, equal opportunity, and community trust. You mess with that nice and simple list at your peril. It is the ultimate FAFO, because breaking any one of those things, let alone a lot of them, and we go from a species that can cooperate in unparalleled fashion to a homicidal or even genocidal species real fast. As Alfred Henry Lewis said back in 1906, there are only 9 meals between mankind and revolution. If supermarkets stopped being supplied within 3 days, people would panic and social order would start breaking down. The question is then, what causes grocery stores to stop getting stocked? Unfortunately, history has a ready-made answer for us. It starts with currency debasement. Governments spend well beyond their means, debts pile up, and the fastest way to paper over the shortfalls is to print more money. Rome debased its silver denarius until it was made of only 0.02% silver. That's the same thing we're doing to the dollar, by the way. It's just hard to notice because the dollar looks and feels the same, but it spends like the 0.02% silver denarius or the Weimar Germany mark. Governments just keep lowering its value until the people revolt because they can't afford anything anymore. As a currency is inflated away, like we're doing right now, the middle class begins to disappear. When most people can no longer afford the basics, a home, groceries, education, and yet the ultra-wealthy have Cirque du Soleil performers at their weddings, resentment starts to boil. Next is populism. As people en masse start going to hell in a handbasket, leaders rise up promising easy solutions, people to blame, and most gloriously of all, people to punish. Political scientists Cass Mudd calls populism a thin ideology. It doesn't solve problems, but it fuels people's anger and gives them someone to hate. And that feels a lot better than hopelessness. But in the fullness of time, history proves that populism only accelerates the fall if it's left uninterrupted. Next is the cultural breakdown. As debt spirals, the middle class disappears, and resentment skyrockets, shared identity erodes and trust collapses. Robert Putnam showed this in Bowling Alone. When social capital disappears, communities fragment. Pew's latest data shows that only 22% of Americans trust their government. We are in the late innings, folks. The next thing that happens is truly bizarre. As soon as I say it, you're gonna get it. But if you're anything like me, it is so obvious, it's invisible. It's what Peter Turchin calls elite overproduction. This is where way too many credentialed elites are chasing too few elite slots. We're going to talk more about that later, but it is a very important idea that goes something like this. You got too many lawyers, academics, financiers, and political types for the available demand. And while regular people struggle and the number of people dying from opiate addiction goes way up, the result? Infighting at the top, resentment at the bottom, and a ghost town in the middle as the middle class is torn in two. Half going up to the upper class because they own assets, and half going down because they don't. As a side note, assets are the only thing that protect you from the negative impact of inflation. But 10% of Americans own 93% of the assets. And finally, we get the elites hedging against collapse. Ray Dalio is one of my favorite people on planet Earth, but it was a surreal experience bumping into him backstage at a conference in Dubai that we were both speaking at, and I realized, oh yeah, this is exactly what people mean when they say that money will move to wherever it's stable. Wealthy people will get their money out. Barring becoming a tyrannical government that imprisons its own citizens, there's no way to stop it. They will move assets offshore. They will build their companies elsewhere. They will buy bunkers in New Zealand. And all of that will reduce the tax base, and that will force the government to print more money because no one votes for the politician who says we need to spend less. And that's how it happens. That's why this cycle repeats. It's what happened in Rome, in the Ottoman Empire, in France before the Revolution, in Weimar Germany before the rise of fascism, in the Soviet Union before it dissolved, in Argentina after World War I, in Argentina again when Perón got elected, and Argentina again in 2001. It's what happened in Zimbabwe, in Venezuela, in Greece during the Eurozone crisis. And those are just the famous ones. And now, all of the signals are lighting up that America is in the same dangerous position. Currency debasement, a rapidly disappearing middle class, housing prices make homes out of reach for the vast majority of people. Populism is on the rise, cultural cohesion is breaking down, there is massive elite overproduction, the wealthy are hedging, and under it all, the debt spiral is tightening like a noose. This is the anatomy of a collapse, and we're living it right now.
I think he talked a lot about inflation. We did have major inflation, which caused a lot of problems and will continue to cause problems for us. Guys, thank you for subscribing. I'm watching that ticker go up right here. And we just hit 5,300, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting me. And we'll have a lot of fun together, guys. Thank you.
But there is a way to avoid it. But before we can get to that, you have to understand why this situation is so dangerous and difficult to stop. So welcome to part 2. How do you stop a country from bleeding to death? I want you to imagine a car pins someone against a wall. The collision crushes the person's blood vessels so badly that they should be dead, but that same pressure also seals the wound shut and keeps them alive. This is a real phenomenon trauma doctors call the tamponade effect. The patient will often remain conscious, talking, sometimes even able to call a loved one to say goodbye, but the moment rescuers pull the car away, the seal is gone, and the person is likely going to bleed to death almost instantaneously. For this reason, EMS teams are trained never to remove an impaling object or release pressure in the field because it almost always results in immediate death. It's brutal, but it happens way more often than we want to think. And it's the perfect metaphor for America's economy right now. We are accumulating debt so rapidly that barring extreme intervention, we are going to go bankrupt, the equivalent of bleeding to death. We'll try to tax the rich, but they'll leave. Then we'll try to tax the middle class, but they're already broke because the wealthy will have taken the jobs with them when they're overtaxed. And that only leaves money printing. And that's the same as pulling the car back and letting the patient bleed to death. The money will hyperinflate, the government will be forced to default on its debt, and just like that, you're Argentina, a once great country that no one trusts anymore. And that's when you realize that when your money isn't backed by gold, or anything else for that matter, all you have is trust. And when that's gone, it's game over. The reason this is so terrifying is because once the cycle begins, it behaves like a positive feedback loop. The worse it gets, the faster it accelerates. Each step in the process making it harder and harder to reverse course. Debt is not inert, it compounds. And compounding doesn't just add pressure, it multiplies it until there's nothing left to spend money on other than the interest payments. Here's exactly how it unfolds. At first, governments try to do the obvious thing, tax the rich.
Yeah.
But high net worth individuals are the most mobile people on the planet. They have lawyers, accountants, and second passports ready to go. Don't believe me? It's happening right now. According to Henley and Partners, a record 142,000 millionaires are projected to relocate in 2025. The UK alone is set to lose more than 9,000 millionaires just this year, one of the worst outflows in the world ever recorded. Where are they going? To countries with stronger property right protections like the UAE, Singapore, and the US itself. It's proof that capital doesn't wait around to be confiscated. It flees. That forces the government to shift the burden down a rung. Next, they turn to the middle class. If we've got any fans of the Nordic countries, this one's for you. Taxing the life out of the middle class is exactly how they're able to have such a burdensome welfare state. But here's the problem for the US. The middle class is already drowning. Household debt in America has just crossed $17.7 trillion, with credit card balances hitting a record $1.3 trillion in 2024. We don't just have a government debt problem. We have corporate debt and individual debt as well. The average American household now pays over $1,200 a year just in credit card interest payments. You can't squeeze blood from a stone, and when you try, all you do is accelerate defaults, bankruptcies, and resentment. With the rich gone and the middle class tapped out, governments are left with only one option: print money. And this is how the noose tightens around our collective necks. With each dollar they print, every dollar becomes worth less. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as an infinite money glitch. Wish there was, but there's not. If you print money, inflation will rise. If inflation goes up, interest rates go up, which makes debt more expensive to service, which leads to more money printing so the government doesn't have to default on its loans. But by hyperinflating the currency, it defaults nonetheless. They may give you the promised dollars, but the promised dollars are now worthless. It's known as a debt-death spiral. And it's the same death spiral that killed all the countries I listed before. And it's not just a domestic problem. Foreign creditors will inevitably notice. In fact, in the case of the US, they already have. Both China and Japan, the two biggest holders of US debt, have been steadily reducing their exposure as a vote of no confidence. China's holdings have fallen to their lowest level since 2009. They've trimmed more than $500 billion in the last decade. Once foreign investors lose faith, yields spike in an attempt to attract investors to buy our debt. Perversely, though, this sends our own interest payments to
guys, here is the inflation rate across the last, 40 years? No, 60 years? Just want to pull this up and take a peek here. Inflation was insane in the 70s, in the beginning of the 80s. Then it dropped. It came down, and then it's been from 85-ish, all the way till about 2020. It was relatively, I would say, on average around 3%. And then in Biden's 4 years, it skyrocketed. It's the highest it's been in the last 50 years, up to 9%. I just know because I know the numbers. So this is about 9%. Where is it? Right up here is about 9%. So out here it's been about 3%, and up here just skyrocketed to 9%. That's our inflation rate, guys, for the United States, just showing that to us. These numbers right here, 9%, where it went under Biden, is absolutely insane. It's come down a lot, and I think Trump has done a lot of things to not only bring it down further over time, over the next few years, but to help it stay down so we can help ourselves in some way. But as this video says, we may be unhelpable, if that's a word, in some way.
The moon, and we all get to watch as that sends the debt curve vertical. That's when it becomes mathematically impossible to ever pay the debt back. Despite that, as borrowing costs explode, governments will do what they always do: borrow even more money. In the US, our debt already exceeds our GDP. We're never going to pay it back, at least not all of it. And interest payments on the debt have already hit $1 trillion annually, more than the entire defense budget. That's correct. We are now spending more to service our debt than we do to protect our country. It all sounds so ridiculous, but it's also all true.
This is why Elon Musk was upset at Trump for wanting to spend a lot of money.
And this debt spiral happens all the time. It just hasn't happened in our lifetimes here in the US. As legendary investor Ray Dalio is very fond of saying, just because it hasn't happened in your lifetime doesn't mean it's not common. And here's the kicker. Once trust is gone, it's usually gone for a very long time. Even just looking at Argentina's most recent collapse in 2001. Within 6 months, as I said, poverty doubled. 5 presidents fell in just 2 weeks. People did not wait around for reform. They stormed banks and looted grocery stores. Once faith in the money dies, society doesn't adjust, it revolts. That's the loop. Debt leads to taxation. Taxation drives out capital. That hollows out the middle class. That forces money printing. Money printing destroys trust, and once trust is gone, collapse accelerates into free fall. Unless you interrupt it with radical, painful course corrections, it feeds itself like a chain reaction. Honestly, I miss the days when I didn't understand any of this, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And right now, as a country anyway, we only have one option remaining. But before I can explain that, I've got one more hard truth I have to lay out. So welcome to part 3. Countries always collapse from within. A University of Chicago survey found that 1 in 4 Americans now believe violence against the government may be justified. And in June, proving the polls correct, a man impersonating a police officer carried out a politically motivated killing spree, assassinating former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and then shooting State Senator John Hoffman and his wife in their home. It was the most concentrated political violence against state legislators in modern US history. But it isn't just the people versus the government anymore. It's the people versus each other. Pew Research finds that 2/3 of Americans now say the other political party is not just wrong, but a serious threat to the nation's survival. That's the level of polarization that doesn't end in debate, it ends in bloodshed. Additionally, half the country believes political elites are corrupt, and researchers have shown that belief directly fuels openness to violence. According to Pew, among gun owners, 72% say protection is the primary reason they own a firearm, far above hunting or sport. Layer on top of that the fact that nearly half of Americans report feeling persistently isolated, and what you're witnessing is the collapse of the very fabric we're counting on to hold society together. And that's the rub. In nearly every collapsing empire, the story is the same. Debt piles up, taxes soar, the wealthy flee, the money is debased to deal with the debt, and the culture fractures. This loop is going to be very familiar by the end because it's a feedback loop that tears society apart from the inside over and over and over. Peter Turchin saw this coming long before it hit the headlines because it's so predictable. Back in 2010, he published research predicting that the 2020s would be a period of severe instability in America. That was a decade before the pandemic, the riots, and the political assassinations. And in 2020, alongside Jack Goldstone, he doubled down in an essay titled "Welcome to the Turbulent 20s," warning that the US was entering its most vulnerable phase in over a century. What did he see looping through history that made him believe a decade in advance we'd be...
His glasses are pink shaded or his eyes are red. Are they his glasses? And by the way, Min, I need a coffee too. I'm gonna go grab a coffee.
Living through what we're living through now? We'll get back to the show in just a second, but first, let's talk about where serious traders go. Most people pick crypto exchanges based on marketing budgets, not track records. So you end up on platforms built for marketing, not trading. While you're getting bombarded with flashy ads and celebrity endorsements, serious traders have been quietly using Kraken for 13 years. This is the only exchange that's actually listed on Bloomberg Terminal. Williams Formula One does not partner with amateurs, and neither does Tottenham. These brands stake their reputation on who they work with. They choose Kraken because when real money is on the line, you don't want an app with the best commercials. You want the platform that actually holds what they say they hold. Kraken publishes their books, complete transparency about your assets. Most exchanges won't even tell you if your money is really there. Kraken shows you the proof. So stop following the crowd. Trade where transparency actually matters. Click the link in the description right now and start trading like you mean it. This is a paid advertisement. This content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. And now let's get back to the show. He saw that when the economy buckles, the strain doesn't stop at the ledger. It pulls at the very threads of identity and community until the country starts consuming itself from within. Writing in Nature in 2010, he said flatly, the next decade is likely to be a period of growing instability in the United States and Western Europe. Certainly nailed that. He was flagging a rising instability signal built from long-running data. And a decade later, he and Andrei Korolev published a retrospective in PLOS One, showing that, exactly as forecast, riots and mass demonstrations surged throughout the 2010s. His predictions weren't headline tracking. They came from a framework he calls structural demographic theory, or SDT for short. Originally formalized by Jack Goldstone and further developed by Turchin, SDT models how three slow-moving pressures build until they break a society. 1, intra-elite competition. 2, populist economic squeeze. And 3, state fiscal stress. Turchin operationalizes these in a composite political stress indicator he calls PSI. When PSI rises and stays high, instability is guaranteed to follow. Here's what each of the individual pressures means in practice and how they're measured in the SDT model. 1, elite overproduction. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video,
it's not Starbucks, it's Nespresso. But here we go.
This is when too many elite aspirants are chasing too few elite slots. This rises when elite incomes fall relative to GDP per person and when the number of elites seeking elite positions is higher than the number of elite positions available. Think credential inflation, more degrees, more lawyers, MBAs, power track grads. That combo amplifies factional conflict at the top. Patronage wars, hardball politics, and splintering coalitions are going to ensue. 2, immiseration and mass mobilization potential. This is the ground level financial squeeze when worker wages lag GDP per person, a relative fall in wages, when urbanization concentrates the discontented, and when youth cohorts are large, a youth bulge, societies get way more combustible. In the model, this pressure rises with the inverse.
He has a couple parts. He's almost kind of done with this part here, but I want to see rose. I don't get headaches like that. Glasses look rose colored, coffee in hand. Yeah, I think his eyes are red, not the glasses, guys. No, am I tripping?
Of the relative wage. Simply put, living conditions get worse because the middle class is getting cleaned out due to things like globalization. Mechanically, lower relative wages increase the pressure and creates more people with both the motive and, due to urbanization, the proximity to each other to organize and mobilize out of anger. 3, state fiscal distress. As the debt to GDP climbs and trust in institutions fall, the state loses room to buy calm, let's say, via stimulus, and loses the trust we were talking about earlier that is so critical to fiat currencies that are backed by.
But what? So if that's the case, why isn't it pink down here? Or maybe it is, huh?
Nothing. Fiscal pressure then rises.
See that? Like down here, it's not. It's just like where his eyes are that are pink, right?
As the debt burden rises and distrust rises, high debt and low trust is a deadly combo. According to Turchin, these 3 pressures aren't additive, they're multiplicative. And that multiplicity is exactly how societies break. Each pressure source amplifies the other massively. Crowded elites times squeezed households times a fiscally strained government yields a setup where every shock hits harder and every policy fight turns existential. Sound familiar? That's the math behind Turchin's 2010 prediction and exactly what we're living through right now. Turchin argued that all 3 pressures turned on in the 1970s and climbed for decades, putting the PSI on course to spike around, you guessed it, 2020. His genius wasn't predicting which spark would start our problems. It was showing that the kindling was in place and would catch fire when any spark came along. Is the recipe the issue? Success creates guilt, and guilt creates overgenerosity. And that's what Ray Dalio, and many others quite honestly, note is the go from here if we're pinned up against a tree. Welcome to part 4. Everyone eventually gets mugged by reality. A recent survey found that 62% of Americans under 30 now view socialism favorably. The Democratic Socialists of America are booming. Their 2025 National Convention in Chicago drew tens of thousands and underscored the movement's growing political muscle. In city after city, DSA-backed candidates are winning. That growth of support looks like legitimate grassroots growth, not a passing phase, much to my dismay, because the bad news, socialism doesn't work. And socialist regimes don't fail from an overabundance of goodwill towards all, as some may want to think, they all collapse due to violence. According to esteemed author and political scientist R.J. Rummel, regimes claiming to be socialist and or communist have killed over, get ready for it, 260 million of their own citizens in the 20th century alone. Why? Because socialism promises things for free, attempts to confiscate the means of production, and evenly distribute the proceeds to the workers. It completely eliminates the free market and destroys pricing signals, however. A move
De Hashem, no, you're wrong, bro. It's been about 100, I'd say.
that ironically leads to shortages, corruptions, black markets, and crazy prices. Eventually, people's cooperation can only be obtained at the end of a gun barrel, and that has a way of disincentivizing them. Even the Chinese Communist Party had to resort to good old-fashioned capitalism to stop starving its people to death. The evidence is overwhelming. Every time socialism is tried, it begins with promises of equality and ends with poverty and repression. The free market isn't just a bunch of greedy capitalists setting prices to make themselves rich. The reason that it survives, the reason that it works as well as it does, is because the free market is a form of distributed collective intelligence. It uncovers what people actually want, what they need, what's scarce, what's abundant, and what things should cost.
And here's a crazy thing about what he's talking about that I've realized is that even the crazy part is the people that are, what's up, Benjamin? One love, buddy. Hell yeah. Thanks for coming, man. Good to see you. The crazy part about socialism is the people that are pushing for it and are in favor of it, they themselves are not aware of what it brings. Those of us that know the history of socialism and have read books and have looked into all this, and have seen all the examples, and there's some real life examples that are currently in place right now. It's obvious, but for some reason, the people that are doing this or pushing for socialism, they themselves don't. It's not. I don't know if it's. It's kind of their fault, but they don't themselves understand what they're asking for, and that's the scary part. They really genuinely think they're after the right thing for everyone.
Take that away and you end up with things at a price no one will pay, shelves full of things no one wants, and or nothing of what people desperately need. That's exactly what happened in the Soviet Union. The state controlled all production, but without pricing signals, planners had no way to allocate resources efficiently. So you'd have warehouses overflowing with shoes that don't fit, while grocery stores sat empty. The black market became the only place to get goods that people actually needed at a price they were willing to pay. Basically, the black market was the free market, just illegal. Venezuela, same thing. Once one of the wealthiest nations in Latin America, thanks to its oil, but absolutely destroyed by socialist policies. Price controls, like the ones Kamala Harris promised and Mamdani is promising now, led to chronic shortages, inflation to skyrocket into the thousands of %, and forced millions to flee the country to escape hunger and violence. And then there's the aforementioned China, the most important case of all. For decades, Mao's experiments with socialist economics starved tens of millions of Chinese people to death. It wasn't until Deng Xiaoping introduced capitalist reforms in 1978, opening up markets, allowing private enterprise, and even encouraging foreign investment, that China began lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty.
Kendall says socialism does work in countries who know how to avoid what is wrong with socialism. Same way capitalism works in countries who know what's wrong with capitalism. Straight capitalism doesn't need what you explained. Straight capitalism doesn't need you to know how to avoid what's wrong with capitalism. Straight capitalism is the most successful ideology or way of government that we have ever seen. And socialism is the opposite. It's the most failed system, in my opinion.
It was the single most successful poverty reduction program in human history, and it didn't come from socialism, it came from rejecting it. It was capitalism with Chinese characteristics, as they would say. The pattern is always the same. Socialism sounds compassionate, but in practice, it's driven by envy for reasons I've covered here in a previous video. And it requires coercion. Once people realize that their incentives.
Somebody's is fresh here. Thanks for joining. How do you feel about fascism? Oh, I didn't even see that question. It says, good for Gabby. And I think he's talking to me, or she's talking to me. It says, dude, you are being so general. You're just here to grab bags. Well, apparently this is you just joining for the first time. I'm glad to have you. But if you know me, I'm not as general as you think. And grab bags, I just explained, if you rewind this current stream, I just explained, I run 3 businesses that I killed myself to finally make profitable over the last 20, 30 years. And while I was working for someone and killing myself to do that all the way, working until 3 a.m. every night, so that it can pay my bills so that I can do this, which I really don't make any money off of yet.
For working hard or gone, they stopped producing.
This is what I really love doing. This is what my other income is for. It's to allow me to have my own time to do this. This is my love. And I would love to get paid for doing this too. That would be probably the best thing ever.
And governments are forced to compel them with the threat of violence. Cooperation breaks down, productivity collapses, and the system spirals into authoritarianism and mass death. So what does that leave? Growth. That's the playbook that's being run by the current administration. Grow your way out of the problem. That's certainly part of a sane solution, but the reality is that the growth is all you need mantra is not going to work. Why not? First of all, it's too late. We're already sitting on $37 trillion in debt. Even if you solve that problem though, by some miracle, there's still corporate debt and personal debt to deal with. It's just too much by historical standards to naturally grow your way out from under. Barring AI ushering in a once-in-history productivity miracle, there's no plausible level of growth that can outpace the compounding debt curve.
Beautiful Bill, thank you, man. It says, dude, we love you. You don't have to explain nothing. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. And thanks for being part of this, bro. Really love it. Good for Gabby says, well, you're on the right track. We're living in an opportunist hellscape. Go grab as much as you're willing to throw Granny under the bus.
Between new debt and the compounding interest on the existing debt, the spiral is just too aggressive. In the last 2 years alone, the US added $1 trillion in new debt every 100 days. You don't outrun that with 3% GDP growth, which is what we've averaged. Without severe austerity measures, you'd need roughly 7% GDP growth just to stop the spiral from accelerating. More if you want to actually lower our debt to GDP ratio. To hit just 90% debt to GDP ratio, you'd need a sustained decade of about 8% growth. And the last time we did that was in the 1970s. And bad news, inflation was so high that despite 8% GDP growth, it was still considered a recession in real terms. Yeah. So that wouldn't work. Yep. Second, even if we did somehow grow our way out of the debt, we'd still be left with catastrophic inequality. Right now, the top 10% of Americans own 93% of all financial assets. The middle class is locked out of housing, the one asset they intuitively understand, and rents are devouring their paychecks. Growth on its own just does not fix that. In fact, history shows it usually makes it worse. When the system is tilted, new wealth flows to the people who already own the assets. GDP might rise, but resentment rises faster. And when resentment metastasizes, societies crack, regardless of what the headline growth number says. Third, growth is blind. It doesn't know who it helps. The last 40 years prove that. Globalization and technology produce staggering growth, trillions in new wealth. But the spoils went overwhelmingly to the top, while the middle class was hollowed out and entire regions were left behind. Growth didn't heal America's divides, it deepened them. Without structural reform, more growth just accelerates the exact same fractures we've already talked about. Put it all together, and that's why Ray Dalio says the only real way forward is what he calls a beautiful deleveraging, which is a nice way of saying do something so hard, basically nobody's going to do it. It's a very, very delicate mix of spending cuts, austerity, debt restructuring, wealth transfers, and money printing. The goal being to avoid violent revolution and reduce the debt burden without breaking the economy, all while laying down a path to future growth that doesn't blow up inflation. If it sounds hard, it's because it is. It is painful, and it requires an amount of cooperation I am frankly completely unconvinced we are capable of in a moment where socialism is gaining in popularity. So no, there are no easy, free stuff for everyone or just growth solutions that are before us. Growth is necessary, wealth redistribution is necessary, but in isolation, none of it is sufficient. The pressure from the debt spiral, the wealth gap, and the trust collapse will continue to increase until something explodes. So if we're going to make it through this, we need more than platitudes. We need a real playbook. So welcome to part 5.
This is what Gabby said.
The playbook, aka how to win.
This is the part I want to look at, but this is what you said right here, Gabby. That's what you said. You said, dude, you are being so general. You're just here to grab bags. You came in here for 2 seconds and that was your first sentence that you said to us. Or one of the first things you mentioned to us.
Wild times.
Or to me directly.
From 2020 to 2022, as the world reeled from a pandemic, nearly $42 trillion in new wealth was created. That was...
Which is good. A lot of people that come here come in firing hard and come in strong, and they stick around because we're open. We're open-minded. We're willing to just talk and have dialogue, and that's what I want. I want us to chat. I'm not grabbing bags. I would love to grab bags doing this. I'd rather do that than having to do this. I do this about 6 hours a day. I'll do this 3 hours tonight too. But I also have to run businesses which take me into the middle of the night and early mornings. And I feel like I'm 24/7 just working. But this to me is not work. This is like my favorite thing in life to do.
It wasn't over a decade. That was in just 2 years. It was the single fastest wealth surge.
Yes, I did a lot to earn bags. Yes, I did.
In human history, forged not in stability, but in collapse. And history shows, as much as this makes me sick to my stomach, that's just how it works. When economies crack, most get crushed, but a select few are going to come out way better than ever. Rockefeller made the bulk of his fortune during the Panic of 1873. The Rothschilds capitalized on devastating European wars. Walter Chrysler nearly tripled his company's market share.
I don't buy stocks, so I couldn't tell you if you're asking me. And Global Health Matters, it's Tom Bilyeu. I buy cars and I like collecting watches that go up in value.
In the depths of the Great Depression, George Soros made a cool $1 billion in a single day betting against the British pound. John Paulson made $15 billion betting against the housing market as millions were foreclosed on. Michael Burry, the real big short guy, also made nearly $1 billion for the same reason. The list goes on and on. Again and again, collapses destroy most people, but they make fortunes for the prepared few. So the question isn't whether collapse is coming. The question is, are you going to be one of the few who comes out better than you went in? Now, I doubt any of us are going to make billions off of hard times. That's not my pitch. That takes a lot of capital to make concentrated bets, a rare financial mind who can bet against the consensus and be right, and the cojones to stick with a plan in the midst of massive uncertainty, especially around timing. I don't expect that even of myself. But I do want to be prepared to weather any storm and come out on the other side better, even if I hedge my bets and diversify my risk like a chicken. That brings us to the playbook. Step 1, get into assets. Assets are the dividing line between the rich and the poor. It's that simple. It's that simple. Get the bulk of your savings into a smart basket of assets. If you sit in cash, inflation will silently bleed you dry. In the last century alone, the US dollar lost over 90% of its purchasing power. 90%. 9-0. During the stagflation of the 1970s, gold, an asset, didn't just hold steady in price, it exploded from $35 an ounce in 1971 to $850 an ounce.
Random says vehicles are not assets, by the way. Well, it depends how you look at it. My vehicles have gone up in value. One or two of them close to doubled in value. Yeah.
Ounce in 1980. Commodities like oil also surged 400%.
But I do use them. I consider them assets that I get to use.
Protecting wealth, while paper money was torched. Even in simple equities, like in the stock market, the pattern is clear. A Yale study of historical returns found that over 200 years, stocks have returned an average of 6.5% after inflation, while cash just loses value. Assets are how the rich get richer, and not having them is how the poor get poorer. Everyone is affected by inflation, but only assets offer you any protection. Step 2, stay mobile. In moments of collapse, your ability to move to a region that is stable could be the difference between safety and ruin. The goal is to find a jurisdiction that is capital friendly, high in financial freedom, tax efficient, and safe. These are the places that are likely to grow and are exactly where you want to be in times of turmoil. You do not want to be geographically trapped somewhere that is attempting to plunder the wealthy, as that is a sure sign that the economy is going to grind to a halt and open violence is right around the corner. Here's what the wealthy know. Capital doesn't wait to be confiscated. It moves to safety. After India's emergency in the 1970s, tens of thousands of wealthy Indians emigrated, taking capital and talent to London, Dubai, and Singapore. After Argentina's 2001 collapse, an estimated 200,000 citizens fled the country within just 2 years. And as mentioned earlier, right now, millionaires are relocating around the world in literal record-setting numbers. I hope that tells you something. Step 3, choose business-friendly environments. Where business is punished, collapse accelerates. Where business is protected, no matter how much people hate it, the drivers of prosperity, namely entrepreneurship and innovation, remain possible. In times of trouble, figure out where safety reigns, people are good to each other, and the populace is respectful of the physics of money. Go there. Those locations will have strong economies and be the bastions of growth and opportunity. In the 2025 Heritage Foundation Economic Freedom Index, Singapore, Switzerland, and Ireland top the list. Compare that to Venezuela, which ranks near the bottom. The same Venezuela, where GDP has collapsed by over 75% since 2013 under socialist controls. And in the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index, Denmark, Norway, and Finland lead the world. Nations where contracts are enforced, corruption is...
Yeah, I didn't want to pause it, but yes, I'm talking about older cars, specific cars. Most cars, you are right, random. But there are a few cars that go up so much in value that they outpace the cost of ownership.
It's minimal, and property rights are sacred. By contrast, countries at the bottom, like Zimbabwe and Afghanistan, are the same places where citizens have seen their savings wiped out by inflation or just outright confiscation. Guys, the pattern is simple. Where businesses thrive, people thrive. Kill business and you kill your entire economy, and rapidly, your nation as a whole. Step 4, invest in your skills. Assets can be seized, as I like to remind Bitcoin owners. Money can be devalued. Businesses can be regulated to death. But there's one thing no collapse can take from you: your skills. In 2023, Georgetown University found that college graduates earn 84% more over their lifetime than high school graduates. And technical skills amplify that even more. A licensed electrician in the US today can command $85 to $120 an hour, while software engineers with AI expertise are seeing starting salaries north of $180,000. And don't forget The world's best AI engineers are capable of commanding billion-dollar salaries. That's pure insanity and speaks to the power of the right skill set at the right time. You can also look at Cuba. After Castro's revolution, tens of thousands of professionals fled to Miami. Within a decade, Cuban Americans own nearly 40% of Miami's small businesses. They lost everything they had in Cuba, but carried their skills to a new location, and that was enough for them to rebuild fortunes quickly. If you want the safest hedge against collapse, it's not gold or real estate, it's you. Your skills, your family's skills, and the value you can create within a healthy economic system. Step 5, build parallel systems. Look, this one is the most radical step, and I considered not including it, but in the interest of leaving no stone unturned, for those of you who cannot remain mobile or who are just so inclined, consider creating alternate economic systems. During Argentina's 2001 collapse, more than 7 million people joined barter clubs, creating a shadow economy where groceries and services were exchanged without pesos. In Weimar, Germany, entire towns resorted to scrip and foreign currencies to get around the worthless German marks. And today, as trust in governments and banks wane, decentralized finance and crypto networks have surged. It should come as no surprise. In 2021, global crypto adoption rose by over 880% year on year, largely in nations battling inflation and capital controls. People always find a way. P.S. Research crypto. Even though, yes, with enough violence, the government can seize it from you, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. This is a less controversial take, obviously, by the day, but it's still something you'll need to form your own opinion about. Now, building parallel systems does not mean you have to go off-grid tomorrow, or even that you need to build the system yourself. You can simply avail yourself of the alternate system if it comes to that. Start by looking at crypto as a good alternative system that has already gained relatively large adoption. Just know that if big systems do in fact wobble, there are still options at your disposal. Don't allow yourself to feel hopeless. I know this idea is pretty radical, but history is clear. Those who cling to failing systems past their expiration date are going to get crushed. Those who adapt to whatever circumstances present themselves at least have a much higher likelihood of survival. And now is the time to adapt. The economic and social signals that warn a potential collapse are flashing all red. Every empire that collapses follows a similar pattern, and America is not immune. First, debt accumulates, then money's printed, then inflation destroys the middle class, then polarization skyrockets, and trust evaporates. Populism rises, everyone joins a team, and fights like their lives depend on it. Taxes are weaponized, and ultimately the wealthy flee or simply stop producing, and the economy collapses, taking the country's stability with it. That script is very familiar to anybody paying attention to history. It plays out over and over again. The ways to avoid it are well documented, but also almost never heeded. So, if we can't save everyone, at least we can try and save the ones we love and hope that it ripples out from there. And remember, while a collapse destroys most people, it also creates a massive opportunity for a select few who adapt, who prepare, and who refuse to be victims. History never forgives the unprepared, but it always rewards those who see the collapse coming and take action. If you want to join me as I explore topics like the same Venezuela, where GDP is
I'm rewinding back to where he's talked about some of the things, the ways to avoid or the ways to come out on top or not, or stay alive. And he mentioned, learning skills. So let me go back to that part real quick before we wrap this up.
It's 2013 under socialist controls. And in the World Justice Project, enforced corruption is or just outright confiscation. Bitcoin owners. Money, licensed electrician in the US today,
Here we go.
and technical skills. In 2023, Georgetown University found that college graduates earn 84% more over their lifetime than high school graduates. And technical skills amplify that even more. A licensed electrician in the US today can command $85 to $120 an hour, while software engineers with AI expertise are seeing starting salaries north of $180,000. And don't forget, the world's best AI engineers are capable of commanding billion.
I definitely agree with the trades. We talked about this on the channel before. electricians, plumbers, welders, roofers. I mean, any specific trade like that is a major W in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, in my opinion. And I think you can do very well in those trades, not only starting out and doing the actual work yourself, but over time building a team and hiring more people in that trade underneath you, training them and developing a company and marketing and becoming the business owner and doing all of those things that are involved with running a business. I think that is a huge W right there. Tamara says they should be paid more. They are paid a lot. Dude, you want to make money? You want to make money? Be a plumber right now. Be an electrician. There's big money in that right now. Big money. Big money. Let me see. Is Trump up? Trump is not up yet. This was the inflation that we looked at. So our inflation has gone through the roof. And you guys mentioned inflation in 2024. So let me pull those numbers out. This is inflation up to 2023, and it doesn't show the decline. Monthly inflation, monthly. Let's look at this right here. So this shows inflation up till January 2025. So what you're seeing here is January 2021, and the highest peak of our inflation here at 9% is in June of 2022. June of 2022 was 9%. Whoop, 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 whoop. Let me go back. June of 2022 was 9%. And then it dropped all the way down in July of 2023 when the Democrats knew they had to fix inflation to have a chance at winning the election again. That's when they actually said, "Oh shoot, we better fix this before anything happens." And then it's been relatively the same. Trump came in here, and we don't have the numbers after that on this chart. I don't know. This doesn't specify any specific sector that I'm aware of. Random says lots of other countries tried socialism. Where are they now? Socialism is, again, it's the most proven to fail. It's the most proven model of failure. Even in the places where it was tried to be done, like where they try to do it carefully and what one of you guys mentioned is, knowing it well and making sure not to, fall into the mistakes of, I think it was Kendall. Yeah. All right. So we got Trump in there. And we got a few other things going on. What is this? Trump is about to go live. We're waiting for that. All right, here we go. We got Mamdani losing his mind. I forgot to change the title on my screen here. That title was off. All right. Okay. All right, just a moment here, guys. Candy, what's up? Thanks for joining. I think Kendall's still pushing socialism on us. Just messing with you. We're not going to become socialists, Kendall. Come on, leave us alone. Just kidding. All right. Okay, guys. So I was waiting for Trump to make his announcement here, and it's going to be a little while before he does. So what I'm going to do, I got to go to the gym and get my workout in. I got to handle some things for my businesses, and then I'm going to be back on tonight. So guys, thanks for joining. Appreciate you guys subscribing and being part of this channel, man. Love you guys. I'm going to call it a day here. If you guys want to join our membership, or you want to join our Discord, we can get you a link to that. We have a public side of our Discord, and we also have the members section. So feel free to continue the conversation on Discord. It's a lot of fun, and it's somewhere we can chat, while we're kind of doing our thing before we go back live together again. Elmo, appreciate you, man. You are the man. It's so funny, bro. I love watching your chats, dude. You are the man. Tamara, Kendall, Candy, Mary, thank you guys so much. Min, dude, thank you for being part of the conversation. Wu-Tan, of course, Random State Line. Appreciate you guys, man. You guys are awesome. Psycho, even though you're half trolling and I don't know what else you're doing, but thank you for being part of the dialogue for what it's worth. Yeah, there we go. So guys, thank you again. The numbers, our subs are going up. We're moving. Yeah, you got here late, Wu-Tan. Sorry, buddy. But love you guys. Thank you so much. We're going to continue to discover together and talk about everything together and grow together. We are alive on the planet at the same time, guys. Can you believe this? It's crazy. Love that about us. Hell yeah. Thank you guys. And I will see you in a little bit after the gym.